Hello, art lovers, and welcome back to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. And today I am very excited to be talking about Combiner Wars Victorion. It's not going to be doing a one figure at a time deal because that would take forever. But because she is a combiner made up of 6 individual bots, this is going to be a little bit longer of a video than usual. So, we've got it's difficult to keep them all on camera. We've got Pyra Magna, who will be the torso, Dust Up, Jumpstream, Skyburst, Stormclash, and Rust Dust. I really hate that name. It's just I don't like the name Rust Dust. Anyway, we are going to start everything off with getting my least favorite out of the way, just to take care of it now. So, Rust Dust is motorcycle. I understand that like all of these figures from the set are remolds. Fortunately, I only own, as far as like Combiner Wars Unite Warriors goes, I only own Superion, and I basically avoided getting any of the other ones because, well, first off, I don't really think Menasor looks all that good, and I was never a huge fan of Bruticus, and I thought Defensor looked cool, but so many of the bots that come with Victorion are remolds that I figured rather than just having two of the same molds, I would just hold out and wait for Victorion. So most of these, with the exception of Rust Dust here, most of these are figures that I've never had my hands on in any form whatsoever. So Rust Dust used to be Groove and is still Groove, but she is now this red and sort of this odd mixture of mint and pine green. Black, a little bit of silver. Yeah. The motorcycle, it's definitely not a standard shape, but you know, it's not bad looking. And there's some nice details in the paint, like these cracks up here, and there's this Cybertronian language that a lot of people have been talking about, theorizing that it might be the characters' names. And it might be, but it looks good. One thing that does kind of bug me a little bit is this Autobot logo in the center here. It's just got that seam going down the middle, and because it's split between two pieces, it seems like it's ever so slightly off center, like it's not quite lined up properly. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's a nice looking futuristic motorcycle mode. And now we're gonna take a quick look at, or quicker, slower. Ugh, I'm tired. Going to take a look at her robot mode now that we're done with the quick look at her vehicle mode. Be right back. Right. So, Rust Dust in robot mode is honestly not much to look at. I mean, there's, even if I try and keep her above that, the base there, like there's just a lot of black that just kind of, I don't know, you lose a lot of the detail. It's like it just seems like she's got like, you know, red gloves and for whatever reason green calves, and then there's the torso, and like that's it. This doesn't really, like the black just doesn't really let a lot of that detail pop. But then again, it's not much different than Groove. She's just like piney spearmint and red instead of white and predominantly silver. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of this particular figure in the set. I mean, she looks okay. Again, you don't really get any new details other than the head, which is the head is just having trouble getting the lighting in there. The head is just Groove's head. green, and there's some, I don't know. It's like the if you want to call it a helmet is the same exact color as the torso, so it all just kind of blends together. And there's just like this little red bit on the top, and then like I mean, it's nice that they painted the face silver and the eyes blue, but a lot of it just gets lost. And with the arms, they're just solid blocks of red, and like there's some nice little details, like the seat being silver kind of makes these little knee pads, but overall, like just this particular figure just doesn't really impress me that much. Not in the vehicle, or yeah, in combined mode, I think she comes together with everyone else nicely, but other than that, it's kind of yeah, just the overall paint details on this one are really sparse. They're just like solid color, solid color, solid color, tiny bit of detail, and then there's the nice little painted crack. But that's about it. So yeah, that is it for Rust Dust. Okay, moving on. Now we have Stormclash. And they're, in case you're wondering, the best way to... Actually, I think I'm going to do Stormclash and Skyburst at the same time because they're twins. So there's very little that I can say about one that I can't say about the other. So the difference between Skyburst and Stormclash are basically their paint details are very slightly different. If you notice, Skyburst has these red details on her right. Like if she were facing this way, it'd be her right. And Stormclash has them on her left. And that's the only way you can tell them apart, really, in vehicle mode. They do both have the Cybertronian writing similar to what Rust Dust had. Now that I'm looking at it, yeah, looking at it, they do actually have different writing. So the writing on the two of them is, in fact, unique, which is cool. So I'm going to put Skyburst aside for now. Focus on Stormclash, just because she's the one in my hand. So Stormclash is, as I understand it, based off the Alpha Bravo mold, and it's a good-looking helicopter. Lots of nice little details in here. Very nicely painted cockpit area. And the details here are definitely better off than they were with Rust Dust. I mean, you've got like these little painted sections on the fins here and on the tail fin here, the nice silver for the rear rotor. Yeah, it's still like a lot of solid sections of color, but it is broken up a bit better. And I do kind of dig the slightly asymmetrical paint approach that they took with the twins. I think that's pretty cool. Of course, you do have the obvious robot hands, but from the side, they're not really that bad. Yeah, I mean, they're good looking. They're good looking helicopters, and got the Autobot logos on the side there. Again, the Cybertronian writing. I dig them. And I will say, now that it's a bigger figure that we can see all this stuff with, I wasn't entirely sold on the color scheme when I was looking at videos and pictures, but honestly, in person, they actually look quite good. I'm just now noticing they've got a little orange paint splotch on the window there. No, yeah, that's a shame. But yeah, the actual colors are pretty cool. You know, they've definitely they look a lot better in person than than they'll probably come off in this video and in the promo shots. Not sure if I would have preferred the brighter, almost turquoisey green that they had in the original versions, but this looks good. It works well. So yeah, it's a nice helicopter mode, and I also think it's nice that the blades, they taper off in like just how they taper off in like the opposite. Well, I mean it's the same because whichever way you look at it, it's tapering off the same way, but it's nice that that like these little edges are like when you're looking at them next to each other like that, they're how they should be, I guess you could say. Yeah, good looking helicopter. I dig it. And again, Skyburst, same exact story, only she has the asymmetrical red bits on this side as opposed to the other side here. Right, so to robot mode. All right, and now here we have the twins, Skyburst and Stormclash. They're a bit easier to tell apart in robot mode simply because Skyburst has this face and Stormclash has this face and has a visor, which makes it much more, much easier to tell them apart. And then the asymmetry kind of carries over a little bit in their robot modes. Like you can see that we've got some of that asymmetrical red detail on the legs here that's noticeable. Most of the stuff on the back is, done because it's on the back, but they do have like opposing chest details with Skyburst. I'm already getting them confused. Skyburst Autobot logo on her right, Stormclash is on her left. So yeah, I guess since we focused on Stormclash in vehicle mode, we'll take a look at Skyburst in robot mode. Although I will say, I do dig Stormclash's head. Kind of has a neat little like pilot helmet kind of thing going. Looks cool. So, getting back to Skyburst. Again, that's nice looking head. Doesn't have the visor, but you got to be able to tell her apart from her sister, right? And again, the same color, like not a whole lot new shows up in robot mode, but I do really like how there's this combiner port here is actually has a little bit of like a molded design to it, so it's less like just the flat combiner port that a lot of other figures have. I'm not entirely sure if this is exclusive to this set or if this was on Alpha Bravo, because I don't own Alpha Bravo and I don't care to own Alpha Bravo, but that's a nice little detail. And yeah, there's just, again, the paint is a little bit basic in robot mode. Like there are some areas that are slightly picked out and look good, but you can see there's a little bit of red painted here. Again, that Autobot logo, some stuff on the shoulders, but for the most part, it's a lot of solid blocks of color, which it's okay. I mean, they're part of a team. They're a color coordinated team, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those tricky things because I think with the exception of Rust Dust, I think they mostly all look pretty good in all their modes. But I don't know, maybe a little bit more color detail would be nice, because like even here, the nice little details that I was mentioning before, they're on the underside of the arm, so you don't even get to see that in robot mode. It's just red shoulders, red biceps, green forearms and hands. I mean, the actual detail to it is nice, but it's, I don't know, like I feel like it could have used a little bit more paint details in there. But, it is what it is. There are some really nice molded details in here, though. Yeah, it's mostly the head that, again, well, it's like with Rust Dust, the head got the most attention. And I suppose that's okay given the circumstances. So yeah, that is the twins. And you can rotate these around in either direction for either one. It's just, yeah, got to keep the asymmetry thing going. Right, moving on. And next we are moving on to Jumpstream. Now, Jumpstream, okay, Jumpstream and Dust Up, and actually Pyra Magna, like all three of the terrestrial vehicles, the wheeled vehicles minus rust dust, I think are actually really cool, and I really like the molds. Again, because I'd never had the official or the other versions myself; these are all new to me. But I have been noticing some unfortunate paint issues with both Jumpstream and Dust Up. For one, there's a little bit of a splash there, but honestly, okay, so I'll get to the issues in a minute. But basically, this Jumpstream has the same green and red going on here. Some nice silver for the tires. And again, Cybertronian writing, which actually, when I was closely inspecting these, the Cybertronian writing on her left and her right are actually different. So I'm not entirely sure that the theory that these are their names in Cybertronian actually holds up, because it's a different thing on each side. Unless one side is jump and the other side is stream, I guess. But yeah, it's a nice separation of color. Again, it's kind of like a block of color, block of color, block of color, with just a few little areas that are picked out in a little more detail. There is some nice little bits of silver in the front, though. Well, I guess that's painted. It's just a little bit of a plastic deformation. And some nice silver for the lights. Although I will say the silver kind of gets lost in the green a little bit. I'll show more. I'm just going to pull out Dust Up real quick as a comparison. I'll be back to Dust Up in a second. But you can see the silver for the lights on Dust Up pops so much better than the silver in the green in Jumpstream. Still, though, I mean, it looks okay. And the big, giant silver windshield, definitely, you can still notice that. And I guess depending on how the light hits it, it still stands out. There's some nice Autobot logos on the side. I do have to say, I think it's cool that they were able to keep this sort of separate line going all the way up along the side of Jumpstream's vehicle mode. The back has a little bit of detail, but not too terribly much. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice looking vehicle mode. And there aren't a whole lot of little paint details, but I think they get a lot of the big ones down pretty well. And I like the fact that her head is hiding like right back here, but it covers it up nicely. And this is the inside of her chest piece that's actually specifically molded just so that it looks a little different in vehicle mode. Because if you notice, the front of the chest piece looks very different from the inside. So this was like molded like this on purpose, which I think is really cool. Now, getting to what I was saying before about some of the issues I noticed with both cars, the paint is a little bit... they didn't go to the edges in a lot of cases. Like here, you can see some green peeking through. Like they didn't paint that red all the way around, and same deal here. And it looks okay from this angle on the top, but then you angle it this way, and you can see some green showing through there. And it sounds nitpicky. Oh, geez, you can even see it here. It sounds nitpicky, but it's like, given the lack of fine paint details on this set overall, it irks me, because you've got this really nice separation of green and red here, but then you've got this stupid green thing showing through that should really have been painted all the way through. It breaks up that color, and it just kind of messes with the overall look, which kind of bugs me. But it just bugs me. It doesn't like ruin it for me. So yeah, that's Jumpstream in vehicle mode. Now let's take a look at her in robot mode. Now, as a reminder, I have not ever owned any version of, I don't even know the mold that Jumpstream is based off of. I'm sure everyone else watching this does. But this is entirely new to me, and I think this is really nice. I don't know how much has been remolded. I don't know aside from the head, I mean, I don't know how much has been remolded. I've seen some videos where I guess the hands have been redone, which is cool. But, some people have complained that they just took guy bots and slapped lady heads on them. And honestly, I think this actually works really well for a lady transformer, I guess. Just like, if you kind of ignore the little bit of the backpack that you can see through there, the overall shape isn't bad. And like the chest kind of protrudes a little bit for, reasons. But it works for me overall. Just the idea that this is supposed to be a kick-ass, a kick-ass lady warrior bot. I think it works, and it looks cool. Now I do think it's also neat that with the cars, they actually seem to get a little bit fancier with the paint, where you've got some extra details that come up in the chest here and in the waist, and then there are these silver bits that in vehicle mode are actually covered up by the feet, which is nice. It actually, the Jumpstream is much less blocks of color leading into more blocks of color. There is actually a lot more painted detail in here. Like you can see how you've got the red for the bicep here that kind of goes into the green for the shoulder, and the hands are painted silver on the outside. And not the inside, but, if it was painted on the inside, then it would rub off as you put weapons in her hands. And some nice little painted details in the chest there, and just some nice molded details too. Lots of just little detail callouts. I really like how the color is broken up on this one. Skyburst and Stormclash looked okay, but I do really like how they break up the green and red and silver in Jumpstream here. Her head, aside from Rust Dust, is probably my least favorite. I don't know, it seems kind of, I guess in a way it almost seems generic. Like they were trying to pull off RC a second time and it just didn't quite work. I mean, there are some nice details. It's got actually some very nice tiny details where you've got like the little bit of paint on the lips there and the chin, these little lines right underneath the eyes. Yeah, it's a detail-wise, it's a good-looking head. Just aesthetically, the overall design of her head doesn't necessarily do it for me. But she is a solid-looking bot. And I do really like how they kind of... I didn't actually plan it this way. I didn't realize that I was inadvertently kind of organizing everything by color. But it is nice how, as we're moving through this, you can see that they're progressively getting a little bit better with the overall color details. So yeah, there's Jumpstream. Now let's go take a look at Dust Up. Dust Up is very cool to me. Again, same issues as Jumpstream. You can especially notice it back here where the paint didn't go all the way to the edge. So you've got these nasty bits of green poking through the red. Then you've got the Cybertronian on this side and the Cybertronian on that side. Nice Autobot logos, silver for the wheels. And I also, again, I really like how, some nice silver in the front there. I really like how they managed to separate out the red and the green here. How they are these big blocks, but they're separated by this really nice line that is unfortunately broken up by some paint that that really should have just gone to the edges. But still, it looks good, and I like that the rear view mirrors, or side mirrors, not rear view mirrors, the side mirrors are actually still green, although a little bit of a paint mess up there. Another issue, there's another one there, a little splotchy. Well, if Takara comes out with a version, I'm sure I'm going to be getting that anyway. So, yeah. An issue that I've seen in a lot of videos for this particular mold, and again, I'm not entirely sure what mold this is based off of. I'm not sure what's been remolded aside from the head. I don't know. But one thing that I've seen from the videos is there's this bit of plastic here that always stands out because it never quite matches the colors. of the vehicle mode, because usually it's separated like up here or there's like a detail in the middle here. But because you've got this big solid almost wraparound red on the outside, this blends in a lot better. I mean, it's still not quite the same shade, but it works a lot better. You don't just have this stripe going down here that completely disrupts the flow of the color, and it's very nice. So yeah, very nice looking car. I also like the sleekness of it. It just bugs me that they didn't have the paint go all the way through. They could have done just a little bit more, even if it was just like a single coat to just kind of make that nowhere near as obvious as it is. Would have been nice. Right. Anyway, time to look at Dust Up in robot mode. And Dust Up's robot mode is not quite as broken up as Jumpstream, but still looks pretty good. I mean, I actually do really like Dust Up. A lot of people, I'm sure, will take issue with the head. There's another, I believe she was a Decepticon called, what was it, Nightbird, maybe? I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not a diehard enough comic, movie, and cartoon fan to know every single character, but she's definitely the Lady Ninja Transformer head there. Yeah, I do think she looks good though. I mean, there's a lot of nice detail. The lines have been painted nicely, although it is a bit weird that only the front part of her head has been painted, and the back it just kind of like, even though this detail continues all the way back, it's not actually painted. It just, I don't know. It would have been nice if the paint went all the way back. But I mean, there's some nice detail there. Her eyes definitely pop inside that mask. Yeah, looks good. And the overall shape, I actually think, despite the large arms, she actually has kind of like a pretty feminine waistline, I guess. I mean, it's a silly thing to be obsessing over, and I'm trying not to, but just, I don't know. I think this pulls off, again, kick-ass Ladybot very well. And the color is also broken up nicely here, where you've got the green inside of the red and some nice molded details too. I like how the knees have these little like points to them, which again, this could be from the other molds. I don't know. The arms are also broken up nicely with color, and now you can kind of see this is the strip that was always so. That was always kind of like a standout thing. And then we've got this little bit on the forearm that's painted. Again, some nice little detail that stands out. And then you've got these silver flip-out hands that, as I understand it, are definitely new from the original mold. And the chest, I will say, definitely not as detailed as on Jumpstream. But it is nice that you got this like little green bit here that kind of breaks up the color a bit more. Yeah, I actually honestly think that Dust Up is really cool looking. I am a fan. I think Dust Up is neat, and yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the head. I think it's okay, but overall, though, I just think she's a cool looking robot. Yeah. All right. Last member of the team. And here we have Pyra Magna. Now, my impressions of her were a little bit at first, but messing around with her a little more, I've kind of gotten over that. Again, she's got the Cybertronian writing on both sides. And some nice little silver for the windshield. The windshield wipers, I do like that it kind of comes down so you can see that it's at least supposed to be separate, even if they're all painted the same exact color as the windshield. Unfortunately, all these details in the front have gone completely paintless. The side looks pretty good, though. You've got this nice green striped kind of... There's a lot less green on her in vehicle mode, honestly, than all the other vehicles. I think they had to put that green stripe on there so that she at least kind of looked the part, because really, that's about all the green you get, aside from the little bits you can kind of see on the underside and like through the transformation sections. It's kind of a shame. We've got the nice silver ladder that does go up. Some nice silver lines on the lights here, which you can't actually tell are lights because they are not painted at all, which is a shame. Nice little vents. I do also think it's disappointing that the cars got silver for the wheels, but Pyra Magna, the biggest of the bunch, got absolutely nothing. It seems wrong to me. Like, you know, have them all have silver wheels or silver hubcaps, or don't do it at all. And she also suffers from being able to, you know, peekaboo. Yeah, I honestly have no idea, and I think other people pointed this out. Like, there doesn't seem, other than just simply saving on overall amounts of plastic used, there doesn't really seem to be any reason for there to be these gaps in the back there. It seems utterly pointless. And moving along to the back and sides, there are some nice molded details, and her fingers sticking out there. There are some nice molded details, but unfortunately there is not a lot of paint on her at all. It's kind of all focused right up here in the front, and that's a little disappointing. Her vehicle mode could definitely be detailed better. Her robot mode, though, that's got a lot more paint to it. All right, and Pyra Magna. Pyra Magna's a bit taller than than I anticipated. Okay, Pyra Magna. Now, this is pretty much where all the color has gone. And I gotta say, I think it's cool. I mean, the legs look good. There's, you know, the green thighs that help to kind of break up that color monotony a bit more. Got some nice details in the shoulders, including that silver there. The chest looks pretty good. Although, now that I'm looking at it, that is totally a face right there. That's a little weird. Yeah, it looks good. And I do like that the forearms are painted with these nice little details in here, and then like the hands are actually silver. The inside of the hands have also been painted, which means there might be some wear with using weapons and such, but what are you going to do? And I do like the face. I think she's got a really cool looking face. It kind of says, you know, leader to me, which is cool. And I also like how they've got that, it's like a little bit of red over the eyes, and then the blue for the eyes. Really helps them stand out, I think. But again, you kind of have some of these similar not quite finishing the paint job issues where they painted the front of her head crest, but they did not paint any other part of it, which is kind of a shame. Now, one thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is just for Pyra Magna or if it's for the other, like Hotspot and Onslaught, but when you've got this ladder backpack thing, I found something that it seems like it has to be intentional. I'm going to show that off here. If you flare out the back here, you can, because this is snapped in place, you can pop this up all the way. Okay. Y'all with me? Okay. Then bend the silver part of the ladder back. And if you notice, these posts line up perfectly with these holes that don't seem to have any other function at all. So if you line those up, those sit right in there, and it actually gives her a little bit of a backpack, but it keeps her from dragging the ladder on the ground. And honestly, I kind of dig it. I mean, she's got these like pretty nice heels that, like, she's not tipping over. Even with this big thing hanging off her back, she is not tipping over. And I mean, I guess you could, to an extent, it looks a little silly because she's got, trying to set this up so you can see, because she's got this big thing sticking off, but I don't know. Something about it appeals to me. Almost makes her look like some kind of, anime mech that's in overdrive mode or something. Now, unfortunately, I do have a Pyra Magna with the knee defect that people might have been talking about. There's this little tab fin looking thing there is apparently supposed to be facing backwards, and it does not, which means I can't push her legs all the way up. It's honestly not really an issue because, I mean, yeah, it's if I want to bend her knees, usually that joint moves instead, but if I just use my finger to hold it in place, it's fine. And her legs are pretty stable. Like, I do not have any issue with her flopping over, so it's kind of a non-issue for me at this point. But yeah, just pointing that out. That is a thing. Yeah, I actually really, really like Pyra Magna. I think she looks pretty cool. Could do with a little bit more detail in the kind of mid area here, but she still looks cool. But that is not the reason you're all watching this video, I'm sure. So let's take Pyra Magna here, along with everyone else, and say hello to Victorion. So the reason you're all watching this, I'm sure, is for Victorion. Now, this, and unfortunately I still don't quite have the proper setup to get every little thing in frame. I will get to the feet in a minute, though. So this is Combiner Wars Victorion, the entire team together with Skyburst and Stormclash as the legs. Oh, sorry. And Jumpstream and Dust Up for the arms, and then Pyra Magna for the torso, and Rust Dust for the little chest piece there. And I think this is a very cool set. The giant blotches of color that were like noticeable mostly in vehicle modes, it actually works really well for Victorion's combine mode. Pardon. And I have to say the color on Rust Dust there ends up working really well in combine mode to kind of break up what would just be a mass of like red and black in the chest, which looks really nice. There's just some nice overall details in the color that comes through here. And here we've got those feet, which look a little bit high heels for my taste, but it just seems kind of like, really, we've got a first female combiner and she's got to have high heels. Come on, guys. The hands, I think, are pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, overall, it's a really nice color scheme. It works really well. And Victorion is really cool. And I'm going to put the camera here to... Oh, I'm going to try to get a decent look at her head. Yeah, that'll work. So, it's very difficult for me to see how this is going with my setup. So yeah, her head is fantastic. Like, just the amount of detail and the clear visor with like where you can see her eyes kind of poking through there. Her head is awesome. That is a fantastically detailed head. And it is so cool. And yeah, just fantastic. I'm not a huge fan of her default, as the instructions say, front of the box configuration, where she's got the uh, where she's got Skyburst and sorry, yeah, Skyburst and Stormclash for legs, and Dust Up and Jumpstream for arms. I think like the big chunky arms just kind of don't quite work for me. And as I've seen, people have complained that you got these little fins for the helicopters that get in the way. Although I have noticed that these arms actually have tabs both on this side and this side. So if you really wanted, you could actually tab the arms in facing this way. Hang on a sec. And rotate. And take that in. So you could rotate the arms that way, which, you know, you do get the visible hands, but you don't have that issue of the fins bumping up against each other. Which, gotta find a good way to pick her up so you can see better. So yeah, that kind of eliminates that problem. And honestly, it's not that, it's really not distracting unless you're looking for it, because, you know, she's a giant robot. You're not really going to be looking at this little spot on her legs. But yeah, so since I'm not a huge fan of this configuration, I'm going to change her into my preferred configuration and talk about that instead. Right, so my preferred configuration for Victorion has the twins as the arms and Jumpstream and Dust Up as the legs. I prefer the proportions of this a lot better. I think the slightly slimmer arms overall works better with these smaller hands, and the larger, the slightly larger legs I think work well with the feet, and also the thighs. It just proportionally I think it looks a lot better. And it actually breaks up the color a little bit more, in my opinion, where in with the cars as the arms and the twins as the legs, it's a lot more red over green. Here, again, it's kind of difficult for me to show off, but here there's, I think, a much better balance of red and green. Like almost maybe a little bit more green, but I'm okay with that. It's like, you know, instead of the main like red for the forearms, now you've got green for the forearms and red more for like the shoulders. And I think this overall aesthetically works a lot better, both in her overall proportions and just the way the color is broken up. It looks really cool. I dig it. Now, I'm going to break with tradition again and talk about Victorion's weapon. Now, the individual weapons I didn't cover because, but her combine mode weapon is quite the thing. This thing is kind of amazing. It's comprised of two individual swords, which the twins use, a shield for Jumpstream, a bow, which kind of makes up this part here, for Dust Up, and then Pyra Magna gets this centerpiece here that makes kind of like a pickaxe. But all combined, this is just an incredible looking sword. I mean, dang. It's almost a shame. It seems like they put more attention into like the paint details for the sword than they did for some of the for some of the individual bots. But this is an incredibly impressive looking sword. It's got like this sort of, it's like an energy aquatic blade type deal. These almost look like, you know, fish fins, and it's really cool. And I love how the shield kind of fills this in, and just some really incredible detail in all of this. There's actually even some detail underneath the translucent bit here. These nasty looking teeth. And it just kind of, yeah, just the detail on this sword is incredible, and it looks fantastic. On the other side, not so much, but who cares, because you're only going to be looking at it from this side most of the time anyway. And it is very cool. And of course, we can have Victor. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm actually going to pop her hand off, because that'll make. Really? You're not gonna. Yeah, and she likes to lean forward. That's another problem. Alright, let's see if I can offset that a bit. Okay. This is proving to be difficult. Alright, I'm just gonna lay her down while I find her hand and connect these two. So yeah, there's just a hole there. It goes in there. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it goes. And then you can actually close her fingers. Okay. So, hoping it's picking me up with this. Can't quite keep my face up against the microphone and look at this at the same time. And there we go. Okay. Gonna have to try and get cute with the posing here. Because if I don't pose her, there's a good chance she's going to fall over. Because she doesn't do standing straight up very well. Right, so. Issues with her, well, mostly the hips from Pyra Magna are a little bit too loose. Don't exactly lock in the best. Specifically the ratchets, they're not very strong. Makes it a little difficult for her to stand, but that's not what this is about. So aesthetically, this looks freaking amazing. I mean, she is so cool. It's like the way all the color balances together and plays off of it, like the contrast and just the giant sword and the overall shape. Like, I know we've seen all of these individual pieces before, aside from the weapon and her head. Like we've had helicopters and these cars and this fire truck and the motorcycle, but the way they all come together with this color scheme, with this head, it looks amazing to me. Like this is an incredibly cool looking set. Mechanically, she does have some issues, but just aesthetically, I am totally on board with this. And she looks great. I did watch Optibotimus's review, and he was talking about how the hands in the artwork are actually, like the hands and feet in the artwork are actually red as opposed to silver, and how that would have been nice to have to kind of, like that probably would have looked better. And I'm inclined to agree, although I will say I think the silver hands on the green, on the predominantly green color for the helicopter arms, actually looks fine. And honestly, I think it looks okay with the red for the cars as well. Like it looks okay, but I do agree with him that red probably would look a little bit better. But overall, just the aesthetics of Victorion and even the individual bots, for the most part, are really, really good. I am super super happy with this. Aside from, it's really the only main gripe that I have is the loose ratchets in the hips, and that's not even really a point of this video, so I'm going to stop talking about it. But yeah, this is just a really, really great looking set, and I cannot emphasize enough just how good it looks in person versus video or pictures. Like, just the greens, it's something like the balance of green and red you kind of really have to see in person to fully appreciate. But this is a very solid, very cool set. Really awesome weapon, really awesome combiner. Well worth your time. So this has been this has been my look at Combiner Wars Victorion. If there are ever any upgrade kits that come out for her, which I imagine there probably will be for hands and feet or whatever, there's a good chance I'm going to be grabbing those because I'm super into this set. And also, if there's ever a Takara release, I'm probably going to get that as well because I'm super into this set. And then if I do, I can do a direct comparison of the two. But regardless, very awesome. Very, very happy I got my hands on her. And I just, yeah. I'm happy. She's very cool. So, thank you everybody for watching. As per usual, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those three would be awesome. And of course, feel free to chime in the comments below. Let me know what you think of Victorion. If you have one of your own, if you've been thinking about getting her, if you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, thank you again. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.